The Philippines and Canada formally signed a status of visiting forces agreement over the weekend to further strengthen their defense and security partnership.
Canada and the Philippines are natural allies.
From economic development to cybersecurity, disaster risk reduction and resilience, Canada and the Philippines share a lot of common interests.
Canada has been and remains resolute in support of Filipino sovereignty and territorial integrity.
In a move that shows the deepening strategic relationships between Western allies in Southeast Asia, the Philippines and Canada signed their first ever Status of Visiting Forces Agreement, SOVFA, on November 2nd, 2025 in Makati City, Manila.
The Status of Visiting Forces Agreement between the Philippines and Canada.
This landmark accord establishes a formal legal framework governing the presence and activities of military personnel from both nations on each other's soil. A crucial step for joint training, humanitarian cooperation, and regional defense operations. The SOFA, signed by Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. and Canadian Minister of National Defense David McGuinty, sets the groundwork for a closer defense relationship that goes beyond symbolic diplomacy. Once ratified by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and approved by a 2/3 vote in the Philippine Senate, the agreement will allow the two militaries to conduct joint exercises, share logistics, and collaborate on operations under clear legal and jurisdictional guidelines. For Canada, this is a major milestone in its evolving Indo-Pacific strategy. First unveiled in 2022, the Philippines-Canada SOVFA is Ottawa's first such defense agreement in the entire Indo-Pacific region, signaling a significant expansion of Canada's role in maintaining peace and stability in Asia. Canadian Defense Minister David McGuinty called the signing a significant milestone in the enduring partnership between our two nations, emphasizing that the relationship builds on over 75 years of diplomatic ties.
To mark the signing of the Status of Visiting Forces Agreement between Canada and the Philippines. It's a day that we declare our commitment to deepening our defense cooperation, a partnership that stretches back 75 years. In 1949, both of our nations were finding our footing in a world that had been convulsed, frankly shocked by war.
The timing of the agreement reflects the shifting global security landscape, with increasing tensions in the South China Sea, the growing assertiveness of major powers, and the Philippines' emergence as a central player in the Indo-Pacific security architecture. This pact demonstrates how middle powers like Canada are taking more active roles in supporting regional allies. For Manila, it adds another layer to its expanding network of defense partnerships, reinforcing its commitment to collective security and a rules-based international order. The Philippines-Canada SOFA is more than a military agreement. It is a symbol of mutual confidence, shared democratic values, and a joint acknowledgement that peace in the Indo-Pacific can only be preserved through partnership and preparedness.
Only a few years later, Canadians and Filipinos fought side by side in Korea, taking up arms with a shared mission of defending peace and protecting freedom.
The Philippines-Canada Status of Visiting Forces Agreement, SOFA, lays the groundwork for a new level of defense cooperation between the two countries. It provides a clear legal framework that governs how troops from either nation can enter, stay, and operate within each other's territories. This includes rules on the movement of military equipment, conduct of personnel, and jurisdiction during joint activities such as training exercises, humanitarian missions, and security operations. Essentially, the agreement ensures that both the Canadian Armed Forces, CAF, and the Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, can work together under a structured and transparent system, something crucial for effective coordination and accountability. Through this agreement, Canada and the Philippines can now conduct large-scale, combined combat readiness drills and multinational operations. This means their troops will be able to train side by side, exchange expertise, and improve interoperability across different fields, from maritime patrols and disaster response to counterterrorism and cyber defense. It also allows the pre-positioning of military assets and supplies, making joint deployments faster and more efficient in times of crisis. The agreement's framework supports not only military training, but also humanitarian cooperation, allowing both nations to respond swiftly to natural disasters. a critical consideration for the disaster-prone Philippines. The SOVFA builds upon the Defense Cooperation Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, signed between the two countries in January 2024, which primarily focused on information sharing and strategic dialogues. However, while the MOU served as a foundation for collaboration, the new SOVFA takes the relationship to an operational level, making it possible for actual troop presence, joint missions, and on-ground coordination under established legal terms. This agreement also reflects how the Philippines has steadily expanded its network of defense partnerships in recent years. Canada is now the 5th country to sign a troop-related pact with Manila. The others include the United States, under the long-standing Visiting Forces Agreement, VFA, of 1998, Australia, with its own SOVFA, Japan, through the Reciprocal Access Agreement, RAA, that came into effect in September 2025, and New Zealand, which signed a similar pact in April 2025. By adding Canada to this growing list, the Philippines is strengthening its defense diplomacy and positioning itself as a key player in the Indo-Pacific's evolving security framework. Each of these agreements enhances the country's readiness, flexibility, and ability to cooperate with multiple allies. More importantly, they reinforce the Philippines' commitment to protecting its sovereignty and maritime interests while promoting a rules-based international order. In this way, the Philippines-Canada SOVFA is more than just a bilateral defense pact. It's a strategic building block in a broader effort to ensure peace, stability, and cooperation across the Indo-Pacific region. The signing of the Philippines-Canada Status of Visiting Forces Agreement, SOVFA, is not only a milestone in bilateral defense cooperation, but also a clear statement of both nations' shared commitment to upholding the rules-based international order. At its heart, the agreement is about defending stability through law, not power. Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. captured this essence when he stated, "Underpinning the SOVFA is the foundation on which it is built. It is to preserve the rules-based international order."
However, underpinning the SOVFA is the foundation on which it is built. It is to preserve the international order as a rules-based international order, respecting the sovereignty and dignity of not only states, but also of its people as human beings with the rights and the freedoms that they enjoy.
His words emphasize that the agreement is more than a military arrangement. It's a diplomatic declaration that the Philippines and Canada stand together in supporting global norms and the peaceful resolution of disputes. Canadian Defense Minister David McGuinty echoed this sentiment, underscoring Canada's long-standing stance on principled international engagement. Peace is built on rules, not recklessness, and stability grows from cooperation, not confrontation, he said during the signing ceremony.
The agreement we signed today builds on that very progress, but it also reflects a deeper truth. That peace is built on rules, not recklessness, and that stability grows from cooperation, not confrontation. The Philippines has shown true leadership in upholding international law and in seeking the peaceful resolution of disputes. And for that, you have Canada's greatest and deepest respect.
This statement reflects Ottawa's broader Indo-Pacific strategy, which views adherence to international law, particularly the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, as the cornerstone of maritime security. Both nations see the SOVFA as a mechanism for promoting collective security while discouraging aggressive or unilateral actions that undermine peace in the region. The timing of this agreement is no coincidence. It comes amid escalating tensions in the South China Sea, where China has intensified its coercive tactics against Philippine vessels operating within Manila's exclusive economic zone, EEZ. In recent months, incidents of ramming, water cannon attacks, and shadowing by Chinese Coast Guard and militia ships have become frequent near key flashpoints, such as Scarborough Shoal and Second Thomas Shoal. These actions have not only heightened risks of confrontation, but also tested the limits of regional diplomacy and international law. For Canada, the SOVFA represents a firm response to these developments. Ottawa has been one of the most consistent supporters of the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration, PCA, ruling. which invalidated China's sweeping 9-line claims and affirmed the Philippines' sovereign rights in its own waters. Canada's position aligns it closely with other Western allies and Indo-Pacific partners that have called for freedom of navigation and adherence to international law. Minister McGuinty reaffirmed this stance, declaring, "Canada remains resolute in support of Filipino sovereignty and territorial integrity." The strategic drivers behind this agreement are both principled and practical.
I think it's important to remember that Canada has been and remains resolute in support of Filipino sovereignty and territorial integrity. This is something we recognize. The question of moving forward together is exactly why we're here signing and executing this agreement today.
The SOVFA anchors the Philippines and Canada within a growing coalition of nations that reject coercion and instead champion diplomacy, cooperation, and legal norms as the foundation of peace. By formalizing their defense partnership, both countries send a powerful signal that they are willing to work together not just in words, but in action, to defend the stability of the Indo-Pacific and the integrity of international law. The Philippines-Canada Status of Visiting Forces Agreement is not just a symbolic commitment. It opens the door to a wide range of practical, operational, and capacity-building initiatives between the two nations. It will allow their armed forces to collaborate more seamlessly and effectively in areas that directly support regional security and national resilience. These areas of enhanced cooperation include joint military training, maritime domain awareness, cybersecurity, and humanitarian assistance, marking a major step forward in bilateral defense relations. One of the most significant components of the new partnership is the expansion of joint military exercises and training. Canada is expected to increase its participation in combined activities with the Armed Forces of the Philippines, AFP, moving beyond its traditional observer role to take part directly in large-scale exercises such as Balikatan, shoulder to shoulder, the Philippines' premier annual military exercise with the United States. This shift will allow Canadian troops to train alongside Filipino and American counterparts in areas such as amphibious operations, counterterrorism, and joint disaster response. Such exercises not only improve interoperability, but also reinforce collective readiness in a region marked by rising strategic tensions. This collaboration builds upon decades of existing defense engagement. Since 1998, the Philippines has been part of Canada's Military Training and Cooperation Program, MTCP, under which more than 400 Filipino military and defense personnel have undergone specialized training. These programs have covered a wide range of areas, from leadership development and peacekeeping operations to language training and civil military coordination. The SOVFA now provides a legal and logistical framework that allows these long-standing training links to expand into full-scale, on-the-ground cooperation. Beyond troop exercises, both nations are investing heavily in maritime domain awareness and capacity building, an area critical to the Philippines' defense and resource protection. A key example is the ongoing collaboration using Canada's Dark Vessel Detection (DVD) system, a cutting-edge satellite technology designed to identify ships that deliberately turn off their tracking transmitters to avoid detection, a tactic commonly used in illegal, unreported, and unregulated (IUU) fishing. Through this cooperation, Canada helps the Philippines strengthen monitoring and enforcement in its exclusive economic zone, particularly in the West Philippine Sea, where foreign incursions and illicit fishing remain major challenges. Looking ahead, the SOVFA lays the groundwork for expanding cooperation into new domains such as cyber defense, information sharing, and military education exchanges. Both countries have expressed interest in establishing more structured ties between their defense colleges and research institutions to promote strategic thinking and professional military education. Moreover, they are expected to enhance collaboration in humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, HADR, a vital area for the disaster-prone Philippines, where quick deployment and logistical coordination can save thousands of lives. The Philippines-Canada SOVFA transforms an already strong defense relationship into a multi-dimensional partnership rooted in training, technology, and trust. By combining Canada's advanced defense capabilities with the Philippines' growing regional role, the agreement helps both nations prepare for modern challenges, from maritime security and natural disasters to cyber threats while promoting peace, cooperation, and resilience in the Indo-Pacific region. The signing of the Philippines-Canada Status of Visiting Forces Agreement, SOVFA, represents an important step in Manila's ongoing effort to diversify its defense partnerships. But it also comes with political, diplomatic, and geopolitical challenges that must be carefully managed. The move signals a clear strategic direction for the Philippines, one that strengthens its network of allies without over-reliance on any single partner, especially amid growing tensions in the Indo-Pacific. However, like other major defense pacts, the agreement faces hurdles at home and scrutiny from external actors, including China. From a strategic standpoint, Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. emphasized that the SOFA with Canada reflects the Philippines' diversification strategy, a conscious effort to balance multiple defense relationships rather than depending solely on one traditional ally, such as the United States. He pointed out that this new agreement is distinct from others, as it builds upon the specific specializations and distinct experiences each country's military brings.
The difference will be in the specific, shall we say, specializations that we each have, and the distinct experiences of our armed forces and the way they are structured. So we have much to learn and much to converge in with Canada, distinct from Australia and the other countries that we have. But we will converge with them in upholding the rules-based international order.
In Canada's case, this means greater expertise in Arctic surveillance, peacekeeping, and advanced maritime monitoring, all of which can complement the Philippines' own strengths in coastal defense and disaster response. By engaging with different partners, Manila aims to build a more resilient, flexible, and self-reliant defense posture that aligns with its broader goal of protecting sovereignty while maintaining strategic independence. Politically, however, the agreement is still pending final ratification, which requires approval by both President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and a two-thirds majority in the Philippine Senate. This constitutional process ensures democratic oversight, but it also opens space for political debate. Some advocacy groups have expressed skepticism about the long-term implications of the SOFA. For instance, the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, ICHRP Canada, has called for a pause and transparent review of the agreement, arguing that it could draw the Philippines deeper into US-led military expansionism and raise concerns about human rights accountability in military operations. Critics caution that while diversifying alliances is important, doing so without clear safeguards could expose the Philippines to external geopolitical risks or domestic controversies similar to those that have surrounded previous foreign troop pacts. On the international front, China's reaction remains an undercurrent in this development. Although Beijing had not issued an official statement immediately following the signing, its past responses to similar defense initiatives suggest that criticism is likely. The Chinese military has previously condemned joint patrols and drills involving Manila and its allies, including the United States, Japan, and Australia, as acts that seriously undermine regional peace and stability. Given the timing and scope of the Philippines-Canada Pact, observers anticipate that Beijing will interpret it as yet another step in what it perceives as the militarization of the South China Sea by Western powers. In short, while the SOFA with Canada broadens the Philippines' strategic options and strengthens its defense cooperation, it also introduces political sensitivities and external pressures that must be carefully navigated. The challenge for Manila will be maintaining its stance of sovereign equality and balanced diplomacy, ensuring that its growing defense network serves national interests, not as a tool of great power competition, but as a framework for peace, stability, and responsible partnership in the Indo-Pacific. The Philippines-Canada Status of Visiting Forces Agreement, SOVFA, stands as a landmark in both nations' defense and diplomatic history, a reflection of mutual trust, shared democratic principles, and a joint commitment to the rules-based international order. For the Philippines, it represents a significant step toward diversifying its security alliances, reducing overdependence on any single partner, and strengthening its defensive posture amid a challenging regional environment. For Canada, it marks a decisive move to establish itself as a serious and enduring player in the Indo-Pacific, not just through diplomacy or trade, but through meaningful defense cooperation. As both Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. and Minister David McGuinty emphasized during the signing, the agreement reflects the trust and confidence between their nations to collaborate closely with like-minded partners to preserve and enforce peace and stability across the region. In the immediate term, the focus now shifts to the ratification process in the Philippine Senate. Once the SOVFA secures the necessary two-thirds approval, it will formally enter into force, paving the way for the first deployment of Canadian troops on Philippine soil for major training and exercises. This milestone will serve as the most tangible proof of the Pact's operational value. Officials from both sides have already hinted that the first major event under the SOVFA could be Canada's official participation in the next rotation of the Balakatan shoulder-to-shoulder exercises, where Canadian forces would train directly alongside Philippine and U.S. counterparts. This would not only enhance interoperability and readiness, but also send a clear strategic message that Canada's engagement in the region has moved beyond rhetoric to reality. Looking toward the long-term horizon, the SOVFA is expected to deepen not just security cooperation, but also economic and technological collaboration. Defense ties often pave the way for broader diplomatic and commercial relationships, and this agreement is likely to lay the groundwork for future discussions on a potential Canada-Philippines Free Trade Agreement, FTA. Such an accord would complement their defense cooperation by expanding trade, investment, and supply chain connectivity, a critical goal for both nations as they seek to strengthen economic resilience amid global instability. From a broader perspective, this deepening partnership also aligns with Canada's growing defense ambitions under its Indo-Pacific strategy and NATO commitments. If you liked the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel for deep analysis of contemporary issues.